Around the date 337 AD, Romans embraced the concept of Christianity and celebrated the birth of Jesus on the 25th of December. But before Christianity, and even after its influences, another holiday was widely celebrated around the same time, and it was called Saturnalia. It fell on the 17th of December and lasted for 7 days. This festival was dedicated to the god Saturn, an agricultural deity that reigned over the world in the Golden Age. This, according to legend, is when humans enjoyed the bounty of the earth without labor in the state of innocence. This festival was to represent the freedom of humanity, where slaves could be served by their masters, and women and men could dress and say whatever they would like. It was a time of liberation. Even the statue of Saturn at his very own temple in Rome was bound with wool until the festival when he was liberated for 7 days from the rules of society. Could these ancient people have been carrying on an even older tradition that wanted to keep the knowledge of the Golden Age alive so that we wouldn't forget that at one time life was different on Earth? And if this is true, could this tradition fall in line with the electric universe theory that at one time we orbited Saturn, bathed in a red glow of innocence, until the day our new sun arrived to change the format of our lives?
Proto-Saturn, as we called the object, which we describe also as a brown dwarf star, was observed by people on Earth as being a kind of misty environment. There was no rain. The water accumulated through a kind of mist, because we were actually orbiting in the very thin plasma loaded with material from the body of Proto-Saturn. So the sky was largely obscured. Also, that light being red, it was very conducive to photosynthesis. All of this contributes to the idea that we were living in a totally different environment, and the light was from a different source than what we receive today. It all fits with the idea that this is a very good environment for life, and that has significance also for the planet Mars because it was in the same environment. The ancients didn't seem to be able to distinguish other objects within this glowing sphere because of the material that was causing this mistiness in the atmosphere. So that was the so-called Golden Age, the era of the Garden of Eden, and these kind of references in creation myths. And it was regarded as being a time when you didn't have to struggle to survive. After the breakup of the system, life was hard. People had to figure out how to survive, how to actually cultivate crops instead of just harvesting continually. It was a time when flowers began to appear, coloured flowers, because in the earlier environment, flowering plants were non-existent. So all of these features that have been uncovered by the physical scientists matches the record passed down through all of these very ancient cultures.
The ancients themselves often speculated about a relationship between Chronos as the planet Saturn and Chronos spelled with a C as meaning time. Saturn, interestingly, tends to be associated with enclosing bands, like he's imagined to be imprisoned, tied up in bands. It's interesting to notice that the ancient mythical beliefs associated with the planets continue down through history for many thousands of years, and they definitely influence the development of sciences like alchemy, certain forms of magic, astrology.
It's quite possible that even after the celebration of Saturnalia faded from society, some people still wanted to honor the original god of Earth and a golden age through esoteric worship. Cults that associate themselves with Saturn seem to go against societal norms. Ironically, many of these esoteric signs use symbols that look similar to electric interactions with plasma. The theory suggests that these images appeared once the red glow had disappeared from our planet and we were captured by our current sun. These symbols would have marked the beginning of a new era and the end of an older one.
One of the most exciting discoveries of my lifetime was when I had a chance to interact with Tony Peratt, the Los Alamos physicist. And we were like trying to figure out, we know that the cross in the middle is a conjunction of Venus and Mars, but what are they doing there? Once we got together with Tony, he pointed out that these were experimentally verified part of plasma science, very well known, called synchrotron radiation. If you consult Peratt's published papers on the subject, he will show countless illustrations of this form. It's really kind of a dramatic confirmation of the electricity and plasma background of the polar configuration. Both Tony and I were impressed by the fact that one of the most ancient symbols of the Maya people displays this very image, where there's a four-fold star in the middle of a circle, and nestled in between each one of those stellar rays is one of these little circles. So you just couldn't have a more beautiful illustration of physics in action recorded by these prehistoric sky watchers. And these four streamers will show up in countless places in myth and symbolism. So it will be like the four rivers of the Garden of Eden, for example. It will be the four winds, the four directions. So ancient symbolism of the kings around the globe, the early kings of Sumeria, will always say, I rule from the center of the four directions. I control the four winds. And that is the king himself assuming the role of the great god in heaven, Mars, who's sitting there in the center of these four winds. Another recurring symbol that you will find everywhere in prehistoric contexts is the pentagram. And so if you look at ancient Egyptian symbolism, for example, the symbol for the underworld is a circle with a pentagram inscribed in the center. And the pentagram traditionally will have, it's a five-pointed star, and it will have a red orb in the middle of it. And so if you go to Mesoamerica in prehistoric context as well, you will find the exact same symbol, where it's a five-fold star. And traditionally, the five radiating streamers are whitish in color, but there will be a red central core to that pentagram in many instances. And so we interpret that as a slight variation upon the Mars-Venus conjunction, which frequently displays either 4 or 8 streamers. But during the course of evolution, it displayed quite a few different radiating streamers, and in many instances, those were preserved by the ancient artists for posterity.